Dear Nathan Bedford Forrest, you don't know me. In fact, I just discovered you and your life story recently, as there is a debate in America over the monuments and military bases honoring men, like yourself, who fought to preserve slavery during the Civil War. The president is against taking down monuments like yours and tweeted, like a self-publishing newspaper that people can read instantly around the world. I will veto the Defense Authorization Bill if the Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, of all people, amendment, which will lead to the renaming, plus other bad things, of Fort Bragg, Fort Robert E. Lee, and many other military bases from which we won 2 world wars, is in the bill. For me, born on July 26, 1999, it is hard to understand how we still have monuments, military bases, or anything that is a place of honor connected to racism. So as I came across your story, I thought I needed an education on why 199 years after you were born on July 13, 1821, we as a country still shine a light on you in many places of honor. Let me first congratulate you on Nathan Bedford Forrest Day, which is celebrated in the state of Tennessee on July 13th. Quite impressive you are still being celebrated in 2020, since you died over 140 years ago in 1877. If you can believe it, earlier this year Tennessee Democrat Senator Brenda Gilmore urged Senate colleagues to delete you from the state's list of people officially recognized with their own day. Maybe this will shock you, but your military genius as a Confederate cavalry general is being overlooked because you amassed a fortune as a plantation owner and slave trader in Memphis before the Civil War. You were also in charge during the Battle of Fort Pillow, where an estimated 300 black soldiers were massacred by your men after surrendering. I read online, a topic for another day. We have this thing called the internet now that allows us instant access to information. The massacre provoked outrage in the North and was one of the most bitterly disputed incidents in the Civil War. And to top it off, being an early leader of the original Ku Klux Klan is not something to be proud of in 2020. Senator Gilmore went on to say Forrest not only supported the institution of slavery, he slaughtered surrendered black soldiers. You should send a thank you email. Yep, we don't need to write on paper and use the U.S. Pony Express anymore, to Republican Governor Bill Lee and the rest of the Tennessee Republicans who were able to save your day this year. Since your background with Ku Klux Klan, slavery and killing black soldiers is pretty bad, they had to use some government procedural trickery to not have to admit how they feel about you. So on a vote of 20-9 in your favor, they were able to keep Nathan Bedford Forrest Day, and the only change is the Tennessee governor does not have to invite the public to observe the day in schools and churches. Phew, crisis avoided, for now. Nathan Bedford Forrest Day, started in 1969, has been celebrated for 51 years. But year 2020 in the United States has been a shit show for those like yourself that believe one race is better than another, so it is possible by 2021 it won't exist anymore. I assume the phrase shit show was not a common phrase in the 1800s, so let me get you up to speed on what has been going on. I hope you will forgive my vulgar language using the word shit, as I know back in April 15, 1865, you wrote a letter to your only son Willie, that included this moral guidance. What I must desire of you, my son, is never to gamble or swear. These are bountiful vices, and I trust you will never practice either. As I grow older, I see the folly of these two vices and beg that you will never engage in them. Be honest, be truthful, in all your dealings with the world. Be cautious in the selection of your friends. Shun the society of the low and vulgar. So in the spirit of your guidance to your son Willie, I will be honest and truthful, telling you about the changes that are happening in the United States in 2020. I guess the best place to start is to explain the actions of the current U.S. President from Time magazine. Since the start of his term, the President has turned the Oval Office into an instrument of racial, ethnic and cultural division. A man who both cited a white supremacist march, went to war with NFL players protesting police brutality, called African nations third countries, and told American congresswomen of color to go back to where they came from. Furthermore, Time magazine points out that from 2015 to 2019, according to statistics compiled by The Washington Post, police shot and killed 962 to 1,004 Americans each year. Black Americans are nearly 3 times as likely as white people to be killed by police, according to the database mapping police violence. Sadly, this police brutality trend continued into 2020 when a Minneapolis police officer killed George Floyd on May 25 by casually kneeling on the victim's neck. This horrible moment was captured on video for all to see, and it has spurred protests around the world and encouraged many to speak up for racial justice. Brett Forrest, a 30-year-old journalist in Colorado Springs, and your descendant, spoke up on June 20, writing a letter to the Nashville Tennessean, Tennessee's largest newspaper, calling for the removal of all public monuments, statues, busts and holidays in Forrest's name and likeness must be removed. Can you believe this? Your own descendant turning against you. Well, according to Politico, Brett said his dad yelled at him for about 30 minutes about that letter, so at least you have one relative that still likes you. My dad said, you know, he was a tactical genius on the battlefield. They still study his tactics to this day. That's what we're proud of. And he also said, this was a good one, his slaves loved him. So that shows he wasn't a bad guy. My counterpoint was, I'm sure the slaves would have loved to not be slaves. And now here is where the shit show. Bad news starts to kick in as the fine people of Tennessee on July 9 voted to remove your golden bust statue from the state capitol where it has been in place to honor you since 1978. Now that your bust has been removed from the state capitol, they might start to look at 8 schools named after you and the street named in your honor at Fort Campbell in Kentucky, home of the Army's elite 101st Airborne Division. I hope they remove your name from these schools and the military base so the United States can continue to show its genuine desire to improve. In closing, I wanted to thank you, Nathan Bedford Forrest, for reminding me how important history is to study, learn from mistakes, and as a country stand up for what we believe in now, which is not having you and other racists in places of honor. Your monument, special day, military road and public schools, all with your name, says we celebrate what you stood for, and in 2020 we need to finally say with certainty the exact opposite. Your bust has been removed from the Tennessee State House and is being sent to a museum where a story can be told to remind us all never to repeat what you fight so hard for, which was equal rights. should not be afforded to every human on this planet. Enough is enough. We all need to commit ourselves to an American life that is equal and fair for all, regardless of race, color, creed or sexual orientation.